Hey everyone, welcome to the video. Let's go over the 9-game NBA slate for today on Draftkings, and thankfully we can move on from yesterday's slate, which pretty much was the most insane slate we've had all season. Anything that could have went wrong probably went wrong for you on yesterday's slate. So it all started with the Bucks. They rolled out Eric Bledsoe early on, which was fine because we could readjust our lineups. It was kind of out of nowhere, but we could still readjust our lineups in plenty of time. But then about 20 minutes before lock, they released their lineup, and it was missing some key players. It was missing Chris Middleton. It was missing Brook Lopez. Dante DiVincenzo was expected to get around 30 minutes, and he wasn't on there. So you pretty much just, it ruined your lineups because you didn't know what to do. Were they going to come off the bench in a couple of minutes and ended up playing 30 extra minutes? Were they just playing with the rotation? You didn't know. Were they not going to play the entire game? I mean, that was definitely a possibility, but you had no idea. It was just anyone's guess. So you're kind of stuck in a bad situation because, the only pivots you had was from that Denver game, which started at 9 p.m. It's not like there was a lot of amazing options in that game either. So, yeah, it put you in a tough situation. I don't know if some of you just pivoted off to the starters on the Bucks, which obviously ended up outscoring those guys, even though you probably had like 5,000 salary left on the table in your lineup. So, yeah, that was crazy. Then you had Norman Powell. He got hurt early with a sprained ankle, so he didn't play well. And then Rudy Gobert and OG got ejected, but that was near the end of the game, so it didn't really matter. And then if you faded that first game, the Charlotte-Atlanta game, I mean, if you faded Trae Young, you were probably pretty happy, but then the game went into double overtime, and he ended up crushing. John Collins ended up getting there, and then Devontae Graham and Terry Rozier went off, so it was a pretty nutty slate. Pretty much everything that could have happened in a 3-game slate. That's just how NBA is. Sometimes after the All-Star break, it can get crazy. But thankfully, we got a nice 9-game NBA slate, back to normal. A lot of good plays on this slate, some good value options, a lot of good mid-range options. So I'm very excited to be breaking this down. But before we continue, as always, if you guys should just leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button. Really helps me out. Really appreciate it. You also follow me over on Twitter. I'm at Pennell16. And if you just come over on Patreon, it's always much appreciated. I reached my 100 Patrons goal over the weekend, which is absolutely awesome. Now we're all the way up to like 110. Might have to set a new goal here soon, but seriously, thanks to anyone who does sign up for my extra content. Put a lot of work into this every single day, so it's always nice that people want to help out. And from extra content, you just get all the extra stuff I do every single day or every single week, depending on the sport. NASCAR, I've had multiple guys take down tournaments almost every single week using the stuff I have on there. So I do put a lot of work into my NASCAR. It's probably the thing I'm most proud of the stuff I do because I feel like this is the biggest edge in NASCAR, and I feel like I do a pretty good job teaching NASCAR DFS. And then NBA, do that every single night. I've been having a pretty good NBA season. So, and then we have MLB coming up in about, I don't know, it's March 10th. Opening day is March 26th. So 16-ish days? Something, we'll just call it 15, 16-ish days. So very excited for that. I have a huge data sheet for MLB. Love baseball. I love breaking down baseball. I'm going to have videos for that every single day. They're probably going to be pretty long videos because a lot of numbers to talk about, but hey, I like talking about it. So we got that to look forward to, and I do have that on the spreadsheet, and then you can do the all sports package if you want. Get all 3 sports, and you save like $10 because it's $10 a sport. So anyway, guys, sorry for the long drawn out commercial there, but got to do it every video. So without further ado, let's get into today's slate. So up top, we got Luka. He comes at 11,100. I got to say, there's some injury situations on this slate, so I have to keep our eyes open for the injury news, but I'll be trying to talk you guys through it. But Luka, he is questionable with a, I believe, right wrist sprain. I don't really think it matters which wrist it is, but I think it's the right one. Not totally sure, though. But yeah, he's questionable with the wrist sprain. I think he's going to, if I had to guess if he's going to play or not, I would say he plays, but then again, I guess I have no idea. It's only up to Luka. But let's just assume he plays. I think he's a pretty solid player versus San Antonio. They've struggled versus guards all season. If you look at the DVP chart, San Antonio has been bottom 10 versus guards so far this season. They rank 21st versus shooting guards and 21st versus shooting guards. So this is obviously a pretty good spot for Luka. I believe he's coming off a triple-double where he scored over 60 fantasy points last game as well. And if you look at his numbers on the season, they're elite. 1.66 points per minute, 37% usage rate around the dot. And he's pretty much the closest guy to Giannis when it comes to points per minute, but he plays more minutes than Giannis, so it kind of evens out. So Luka, I think he's a fantastic play if he's good to go, and we should have enough value on this slate to be able to fit him in if you choose to do so. So Luka, one of the top sign-up options of the entire slate. Right below him, we have LeBron, who's also questionable. So my top 2 options here for just salary-wise are both questionable for this game, and obviously if they miss, it's going to open up some extra value plays on this slate. But I feel like they're both going to play. I mean, again, I have nothing to back that off of. I just feel like they're going to. But if they don't, obviously they're not. So we'll talk through it a little bit. I got some extra guys listed here in case they do miss. But assuming LeBron plays and gets his usual 30-ish minutes, he should be a pretty good play. He's below 11K, and he's been playing out of his mind the past 2 games. Took down the Clippers, took down the Bucks. He's coming in with big momentum right now. So, I mean, it's kind of a much softer spot versus Brooklyn here, but much better matchup for him. I mean, Brooklyn really struggles versus point guards, or I don't know, whatever position you want to call LeBron, point guard, small forward, center, power, whatever you want to call LeBron. He's unstoppable pretty much anyway, so I don't really care about the matchups. But Brooklyn does struggle versus point guards. They do rank 25th versus the position. This is also a pace-up spot for the Lakers, as they are 14th in pace of play, while the Nets are 9th. Not a huge pace-up spot, but still a pace-up spot nonetheless. And they don't really have anyone that can guard LeBron, nor does really anybody in the league. But averaging about 35 minutes per game, 1.54 points per minute, 31.5% usage rate. He can do whatever he wants, whenever he wants, however he wants. If he's good to go, I think LeBron's a pretty solid option. And this is also the 10:30 game, which kind of sucks because I don't know when we're going to get the news. It feels like we get LeBron news pretty early on in the day, so that's at least nice. But you never know with the 10:30 p.m. game, especially since he might be a game time decision. So if you're playing LeBron, it might be a smart idea to put LeBron in the utility spot and then just have Anthony Davis there as an available pivot, and then maybe you can move it around a little bit salary-wise to even out your lineup, because I know they're not the same exact price tag at all, about $1,000 off, but just to play it safe, you might want to throw LeBron in the utility spot, unless we were going to go double center. I don't know. I'm just talking some ideas here, but yeah, if he's good to go, I like LeBron. Russell Westbrook, 10,100. He disappointed big time versus Orlando last game, as did all of Houston. They sucked. Orlando was killing them at one point. But I like the spot here versus Minnesota. I like the bounce back spot. And if I have to pick between Russell Westbrook or James Harden, I am pretty much going Russell Westbrook every time. I used to be going Harden, but Harden's also more expensive, and he seems to be letting us down pretty much every single night. So why not just go with the cheaper option between the two? Russell Westbrook, who has disappointed a couple times, but for the most part, he's been pretty darn solid after the All-Star break, and he comes in at 10,100, which is cheaper than James Harden. I forget James Harden's price exactly. Actually, I could probably look if we go to the DK page here. So James Harden's 11,300, so he's the most expensive guy in the slate. So yeah, I'd much rather play Russell Westbrook, who's 1,200 cheaper. So yeah, much prefer Russell Westbrook. And if you look at his numbers on the season, he's at 1.4 points per minute, 34.5% usage rate. Also, this game's going to be a track meet versus Minnesota. Both teams are top 5 in pace of play. And in Minnesota, they suck defensively. They've been getting worse and worse as the season progresses. They're ranked 24th versus point guard, so love the spot for Russell Westbrook. I know I don't have any totals here listed at the moment, but I did look at some other sites, and this is over a 240 total. It's either 245 or 240 on the die. I can't remember which one it was. Where there's going to be a lot of points scored in this game. This game's going to have the highest total. The problem is the Rockets are double-digit favorites, so they could always get pulled early and not play in the fourth quarter like they did versus that Memphis game. But assuming they get full minutes, because I don't like projecting blowouts, I think Russell Westbrook's in contention for one of the top plays of the slate, or one of the top spend-up options of the entire slate. Definitely like him over James Harden. Now, really quick, I did pause the video, and I went to see if I could upload any Vegas projections or Vegas lines, and I was able to. So that Houston game's a 244.5 point over under. The Rockets have nearly a 130 point implied team total, but it's a 12.5 point spread, which does give me some concern because you never know. But I mean, it's a massive total. You definitely want at least some exposure to that game for sure. Right below Russell Westbrook, though, you have Anthony Davis. He comes in at 9,800. If LeBron's out, he's my favorite spend-up of the slate, and it's not that close because with LeBron out, it's obviously going to help the game stay closer, and it's an elite spot for Anthony Davis down low versus Brooklyn. I like Anthony Davis just in general, even with LeBron playing, but if you take LeBron off the court, I mean, it's pretty much a slam dunk play just to play Anthony Davis and move on. Because Brooklyn, if they struggle versus anything on defense, it's point guards and it's big men. They suck versus centers. Now, I know Anthony Davis is technically a power forward / center, but I mean, who's really going to stop Anthony Davis? If you look at the DVP chart, Brooklyn does rank 27th versus center, so gotta love the spot for Anthony Davis down low, especially if LeBron does happen to miss this game. On the season, just by himself, he's at 1.47 points per minute, 29% usage rate. If you take LeBron off the court, he's just right around 1.6 points per minute with over a 30% usage rate. So Anthony Davis would become a tremendous, tremendous play if LeBron happens to miss this game. But I don't think he will, but you never know. Kristaps Porzingis, he comes in at 9,300. If Luka's out, you play Porzingis because it's as simple as that. So if LeBron's out, you play Anthony Davis. If Luka's out, you play Kristaps Porzingis. Now, Kristaps Porzingis is not as much of a lock as Anthony Davis would be just because 9,300 is pushing it a little bit. If he was in the 8K range, I'd say, yeah, for sure, 9,300. You're pushing it, but his numbers are very, very good without Luka, and he even has huge games with Luka on the court. I mean, we've seen Kristaps drop around 60 fantasy points if you take, playing alongside Luka, but if you take Luka off the court, the guy's got insane upside. He had a 75-point fantasy outing recently on I think it was like an early Saturday game or early Sunday game, something like that. But yeah, the guy's got an insane upside. We've seen it time and time and again, so I don't see why he couldn't do it again. The matchup versus San Antonio is not amazing down low, but it's not terrible either. If you look at the DVP chart, San Antonio ranks 17th versus power forwards and 11th versus center. So like I said, nothing like amazing, but it's still not too bad. I don't really care about the matchup for Porzingis, especially if Luka happens to miss. Now, if Luka plays, I really don't have that much interest in Porzingis. But if he's out, I like him. On the season, he's at 1.27 points per minute, 26.8% usage rate. If you take Luka off the court, that's around 1.4 points per minute with all over a 30% usage rate. So Porzingis would definitely be a very solid play if Luka happens to miss this game with the sprained wrist. Nikola Vucevic, he's kind of been on fire recently. He's been scoring 50 fantasy points or right around there recently for the past quite a few games, and he's just been playing very well. I've been recommending him almost every single night, and seems to be playing well, and obviously gets a bump with Evan Fournier out of the lineup. I know they don't play the same position or anything, but certainly gets a bump when you take a guy that can score a lot of points like that off the court. And I like the spot versus Memphis. He's just been getting a good string of matchups recently against teams that play fast and don't really have good defensive teams. I believe he played, I want to say Atlanta. Was it? I can't remember. He's had like 3 really good games in a row. I think he played Portland. Then I know he's about to play Memphis. He played the Rockets, and he had another good matchup mixed in there. But he's been playing pretty well, and I don't see why they can't continue here versus Memphis. Big pace out spot for the Magic. They're second to last in pace of play in the season, while the Memphis, I almost forgot they're playing Memphis Grizzlies are at 7th. So like the pace up spot quite a bit. On the season, he's at 1.3 points per minute, 26% usage rate. If you look at the DVP chart, Memphis is 17th versus center, so like the spot for Nikola Vucevic. Numbers go up a little bit when you take Evan Fournier off the court, obviously, and Jonathan Isaac, who's been out for a while. So Nikola Vucevic, I would call him a very safe, solid cash game play. You can play him in tournaments too, but I like him quite a bit. Now, I think your tournament pivot off of Vucevic would be Whiteside. I think they're both excellent plays, and I really don't think you go wrong with either. And I feel like you could play them both in cash games. I just feel like I might feel a little bit safer with Vucevic. But, Whiteside's right there with them. He's also 100 cheaper. But I like both a lot. But he gets a really good matchup here versus Phoenix. They've struggled with big men all season. They rank, 20th versus the position. So bottom 10. Now, DeAndre Ayton is questionable for this game. I'd like him to actually play because Whiteside can bully him down low because he's not a very good defender. Neither is Hassan Whiteside. But yeah, I like Hassan Whiteside quite a bit. This is going to be a pretty good game for fantasy purposes. There's no total out yet, but if I had to guess, it's probably going to be around 230. Portland and Phoenix, both teams that struggle defensively and have some decent offenses, could put up a lot of points. So yeah, I like this game, especially for fantasy purposes. And if you look at Whiteside's numbers on the season, 1.35 points per minute, lower usage rate, but he's been great. Great point per minute wise, even better than Nikola Vucevic, and playing only about 1 less minute per game. So, you couldn't go wrong with either. If you had to pick between the two, I'm not really even sure what I'd go with. I feel like I'd lean Vucevic, but I don't know. Whiteside's just got that insane upside, but so does Vucevic, so it's a really tough decision. It's just on personal preference, to be honest. I haven't even read my projections yet, so I wouldn't even really know who to tell you just off the top of my head, but I know it's going to be very close between the two. If they get around similar minutes, it's probably going to go Whiteside just because he's better point per minute wise, but both are fine. Right below him, we got Devin Booker in the same game as Hassan Whiteside. You could honestly make a tournament lineup with running Hassan Whiteside, running back with Devin Booker, because Devin Booker's been playing very well recently. Now, I would have to downgrade him a little bit if DeAndre Ayton happens to play in this game. And speaking of DeAndre Ayton, I need to look up his price really quick. So 1 second. Okay, he's 8,300, but that doesn't matter to you guys. But anyway, Devin Booker, I like him in tournaments. At this price, I'm not going to play him in cash games. I've been recommending Devin Booker pretty much every single night for a while now. There's no Kelly Oubre. There's no DeAndre Ayton. And I feel like DeAndre Ayton probably not going to play in this game. I think they're just going to keep running Aaron Baines out there until Ayton gets 100% healthy, because Baines has been absolutely balling out. So I don't see a reason to really want to rush Ayton back from an ankle sprain. But Assuming Ayton's out, Devin Booker, he's got some really strong numbers with Oubre and Ayton off the court. On the year, he's at 1.16 points per minute, the 29% usage rate. Number gets closer to 1.3 points per minute with about a 35% usage rate if you take those guys off the court. So you certainly have to have some interest in tournaments. Not going to get there in cash games with that near 9K price tag, because Devin Booker can be very, very up or down. He's kind of scoring dependent. He's been doing a little bit more in the stat sheet with those guys missing, but still more of a scoring dependent guy. But fortunately, he's pretty good at scoring. He's averaging 26.1 points per game, but he's fine in tournaments. If you look at the DVP chart, Portland, 26 versus point guards, 18 versus shooting guards, so it's a very good matchup. And like I said, you're probably going to want some pieces of this game because it's going to have around a 230 total if I had to guess. So Devin Booker, I think he's a pretty solid play on this slate. All right, so the next guy I got to talk about is Andre Drummond. He comes in at 8,700 now. Recently, I shouldn't say recently, but before recently, he has not been playing a lot of minutes for Cleveland. He's probably been around that 25-ish minute range. But the thing is, Tristan Thompson is out for this game, and he was also left the last game early. And then Andre Drummond also played, let me see exactly how many minutes he played. Okay, so he played 36 minutes in the game prior before the last one, then he played 33 minutes in the last game. But that was also aided by overtime, but he was still on his way to around 30 minutes, and then Tristan Thompson ended up leaving that game. So with Tristan Thompson being out, I think we can project Andre Drummond for around, I'd say anywhere from 30 to 35 minutes. And if he's going to get 30 to 35 minutes for Chicago on Cleveland, he's going to be a smash play at 8,700. I mean, just assuming he gets those minutes, he's probably my favorite option in this tier. I mean, he should be a core play for me if I'm guessing. Because, I mean, that's just way too cheap for a guy like Andre Drummond versus Chicago. I mean, Chicago is just so bad down low versus big man. If you look at the DVP chart, Chicago, they rank 30th versus centers and 30th versus power forwards. So both him and Kevin Love are in really good spots. I don't have Larry Nance listed on here just because he's getting a little bit more pricey than I'd like him to be. He's fine, though. But, yeah, I definitely prefer Andre Drummond. I mean, not prefer Andre Drummond. I like Andre Drummond. I don't prefer him really over anybody that I was just talking about, but because that's kind of obvious. But yeah, Drummond, he's been playing well. 60 fantasy points and 57 points the last two games, and I mean, he's been getting the season 1.4 points per minute, and obviously you're gonna get a bump with Tristan Thompson being off the court. Now, I know a lot of these numbers are with Detroit, but I'm just talking in general that without Tristan Thompson, they're not gonna have, Larry Nance, Tristan Thompson, Kevin Love, and Andre Drummond. It's just gonna be Andre Drummond, Kevin Love, and Larry Nance now. So Drummond gets his 33 to 35 minutes. He should be able to smash this price tag quite easily, especially against that bad Chicago front court. So definitely like Drummond. D'Angelo Russell, he's fine in GPPs, but he has not been playing well at all relative to his price tag. I mean, he's kind of sucked. If you played D'Angelo Russell recently, it sucked. But I like the total here. It's a 244.5 point total, 160 implied team total. The only problem I have is a 12.5 point spread. But if you're playing Russell Westbrook or you're playing James Harden, you need that game to stay close for them to hit their maximum potential. So I think it would make sense to probably run the back with a guy like D'Angelo Russell in tournaments. Now, you can get away with just playing Russell Westbrook in cash games. That's fine. But if you're playing tournaments and Russell Westbrook is not playing barely anything in the fourth quarter, you're probably screwed. So just game theory-wise, you should probably run it back with D'Angelo Russell, who is obviously the best player on Minnesota scoring-wise. And he definitely has that upside. We've seen him score multiple 50 fantasy point outings with Minnesota, but he's just been scuffling as of late. But like his chances to bounce back versus a pretty bad Houston squad. If you look at the DVP chart, Houston does rank 27 versus shooting guards and 20th versus point guards. So gotta like the spot for D'Angelo Russell. A lot of points are going to be scored. The game's going to be a track meet on the season. 1.25 points per minute, 31.5% usage rate. So D'Angelo Russell, he's fine in tournaments. Not going to get there in cash games, but tournaments, I think that's fine. Kevin Love, he comes in at 8,100, and I just talked about the situation with Andre Drummond, so I'm not going to completely repeat myself, but obviously he's going to get a bump without Tristan Thompson on the court. Minutes are more solidified, and Kevin Love's been playing very, very well recently, and I don't see why that would stop here versus Chicago. This is an elite matchup for Kevin Love. Look at the DVP chart. Like I said, they rank 30th versus power forwards and 30th versus centers. So I do like Kevin Love here quite a bit. If you look at his numbers on the season, he's at 1.15 points per minute, 23% usage rate. I think Kevin Love's a very solid play in that 8K range. Julius Randle, he's coming off a pretty solid game last time out. I forget exactly who they were playing. I want to say it was, I don't remember. It was a good matchup, though. He ended up playing pretty well. But yeah, Julius Randle, he comes in at 7,600. I think it's a pretty fair price tag. And he's going up against Washington, who is a dumpster fire defensively. If you look at the DVP chart, Washington does rank third worst overall, 18th versus power forwards, and 25th versus centers. So you got like a spot for Julius Randle, and it's also a pace of spot for the Knicks as they are 18th in pace of play while the Wizards are 6th. And on the season, he's got a 27.6% usage rate, 1.15 points per minute. Not going out of my way to play Julius Randle in any lineups, but if you want to land on him and just at your forward spot, I think that's totally fine. DeMar DeRozan, he comes in at 7,400. Whenever LaMarcus Aldridge is out, I always have interest in DeMar DeRozan. Now, he hasn't been like scoring 50 fantasy points recently, but he's been getting us mid-40s, which is fine at this price tag. It's not like he's in that 8K range anymore. So this lower to mid 7K range, if he can get us 45 fantasy points, we'll take it. And I think he can do that versus Dallas. I mean, he obviously gets a bump with LaMarcus Aldridge off the court. We also don't have to worry about Murray anymore either, and there's no Jakob Poeltl. So definitely going to be a reliant to score for DeMar DeRozan. And on the season, he's at 1.13 points per minute, 26% usage rate. If you take Aldridge off the court, he's at 1.25 points per minute with over a 30% usage rate. So you certainly have to have some interest in DeRozan. Now, the DVP chart, if you look at that, Dallas is a pretty solid defensive team. They do rank 9th versus shooting guards, but 21st versus small forwards. And I know that DeRozan got the start at power forward that one time. They rank 11, but overall, I think he'll be fine. I don't really care about the matchup too much. It's mostly about Marcus Aldridge being off the court, which is what matters the most. So DeRozan certainly have interest. Kobe White, he is the most expensive he's been all season, but he's also drawing the start tonight. They're actually giving him the start. So I'd up his minutes a little bit. Usage rate, probably going to stay similar just because Zach LaVine's out. I mean, maybe, I don't know. I kind of like them coming off the bench, but I still think he's going to be fine. The minutes are more solidified. Maybe the points per minute rate and the usage rate drops a little bit. Maybe, but I mean, the more minutes he gets, it's going to be fine. If you take a guy like Zach LaVine off the court, obviously he gets a massive bump. But the guy just does not know how to have a bad game. He's been playing extremely well. I mean, consistently over 30 fantasy points with upside of more. And if the guy gets hot from deep, you can probably chalk him up for near 50 fantasy points if he gets White hot from deep. So yeah, Kobe White certainly got to have some interest, and this is an elite matchup for Kobe White. It's literally the best matchup you can ask for. Cleveland ranks 30th versus point guards, 30th versus shooting guards. So love the spot for Kobe White. I know he's expensive, but he can certainly hit that ceiling if he can hit his threes. On the season, 0.92 points per minute, 24.2% usage rate. You take LaVine off the court, that gets closer to a point per minute with a little bit closer to a 30% usage rate. So Kobe White, draw on the start. I like him quite a bit. Elfrid Payton, 6,300, just seems a little bit too cheap for the guy. I believe the last game he was priced at, I apologize, he was actually 6,200 last game, now he's 6,300, but before that, I mean, this is pretty darn cheap. I mean, he was in that 7K range for a while, and, you know, people still had interest in Elfrid Payton, so I like him quite a bit. 6,300 is pretty cheap versus Washington. It's obviously a really good matchup. It's a pace-up spot for the Knicks. If you look at the DVP chart, Washington, they're ranked 27 versus point guard, so love the spot for Elfrid Payton. And the guy does a little bit of everything in the stat sheet. That's why I like him, because he's pretty solid for cash games, because even if he doesn't have a good scoring night, he's going to do a little bit of everything. He's going to get the rebounds, he's going to get the assists, he'll get some steals mixed in there. So then you can probably chalk him up for around 10 real-life points, if sometimes upside of more. So, and on the season, he's at 1.07 points per minute, 19% usage rate, but he just does a little bit of everything in the stat sheet. I like that. It's a fair price tag. Good matchup versus Washington. Elfrid Payton, I don't mind at all. Malik Beasley, he's been in the better play than D'Angelo Russell recently, just price-wise and, you know, value-wise for where they're scoring. And he's kind of scoring similar points to D'Angelo Russell, 6,200. The guy's got upside, and we're going to need guys to score for Minnesota on Houston to keep this game close. And Malik Beasley's one of those guys, him and D'Lo. I think Minnesota's going to need big games out of both of those guys. And if you want Westbrook or Harden to hit their potential, these guys got to go off, and I think they have the opportunity to. I mean, it's a good matchup versus Houston. They rank bottom 5 versus guards. They rank, where are they at? Yeah, 27 versus shooting guards, so this is a very good spot for Malik Beasley. 24th versus small forwards. Obviously, the addition of Robert Covington has helped him on the wings a little bit, but Malik Beasley, I think, is going to be fine. And if you look at his numbers on the season, he's only at 0.87 points per minute, 21% usage rate. But moving on to Minnesota, the guy's been playing, or I should say with everyone being off the court now for Minnesota, all the guys they traded and the new additions, he's been playing closer to a point per minute, if not a little bit better. So Malik Beasley, I think he's a fine option. Aaron Baines, he comes in at 5,900. The guy's been playing out of his mind the past 2 games. Now, he's never going to do that thing where he went 23x again when he was mid-price. But if DeAndre Ayton misses this game, I don't see why we couldn't go back to the Aaron Baines well. I know he's getting really pricey at 6K, but this is a great matchup versus Portland. And if you look at his last 2 games, fantasy points-wise, he's at 36 minutes played and 33 minutes played, and he's at 69 fantasy points and 37 fantasy points. So even if he scored 37 fantasy points, it's not 70 fantasy points, but we'll take it at that price tag. And it's a really good matchup versus Portland. We're going to want pieces of this game. If you look at the DVP chart, Portland, they suck versus big men. They rank 25th versus the position, 27th versus power forward. So Aaron Baines, I don't mind him. He's about a point per minute guy, playing better than that recently. 1.04 points per minute, 21% usage rate. If Ayton's out, Aaron Baines got the hot hand right now, so wouldn't mind him. Terrence Ross, he comes in at 5,800. He's just the kind of guy I like in pace-up spots, and that's certainly what you're going to get versus Memphis. The guy can score a lot of points, and that's pretty much all he's going to do. Maybe he'll mix in a couple of rebounds and assists, but the guy mainly scores points. So if he's not having a good shooting night, it's not going to be a good fantasy night for him. But without Evan Fournier, obviously he gets a bump in pretty much all aspects: points per minute, usage rate, and minutes played. And it's a good spot versus Memphis. They suck versus guards and forwards. They rank 25th versus shooting guards, 25th versus small forwards. So very, very good matchup for Terrence Ross. On the season, 0.88 points per minute, 22% usage rate, but those numbers do go up when you take Evan Fournier off the court, which is going to be the case. So Terrence Ross, he's fine in tournaments. Not sure if I'd get there in cash games just because he's very scoring dependent, but I think he's a solid option. Chetty Osman comes in at 5,400. Now, would I ever want to play Chetty Osman for 5,400? At the beginning of the season, absolutely not, or even pretty much any point of the season. But without Kevin Porter, without Darius Garland, the guy's being asked to play nearly 40 minutes per game, and he's been pretty well. He had over 30 fantasy points in the last game, and now he gets a really good matchup versus Chicago as a small forward / power forward. They suck versus those positions. They rank 30th versus power forwards and 17th versus small forwards, so this is a pretty good spot for Osman. Now, he's not very good point per minute wise. He's only at 0.73 points per minute, which is the worst out of any player we talked about so far yet. But when you take those two guys off the court, it goes up a little bit, but the minutes are more solidified because he's only averaging 29 minutes per game on the season. But he should get around 40 here. So Chetty Osman, I think he's fine. He's never an exciting play, but it's whatever. Shaq Harrison, he comes in at 5K. He's been playing very, very well recently. He's been getting the minutes. He's going to draw the start this time around as well, and there's no Zach LaVine, so I don't mind him here versus Cleveland. We know Cleveland sucks defensively, and Shaq Harrison, like I said, he's been playing pretty well recently. 3 games ago he scored 30. I think the last game he scored 38, then around 30 again, or maybe he scored 40. But he's been playing pretty well. You got to like the matchup versus Cleveland. They suck defensively. If you look at the DVP chart, they rank second worst on the season. They rank 30th versus shooting guards, 29th versus small forwards. So got to like the spot for Shaq Harrison here. And he's been playing mid-30s minutes right around there. And if he can get those again, I don't see why he can't pay off his price tag at 5K. And on the season, he's about a point per minute guy, 1.02 points per minute. So if he's going to get around 30 minutes, you can probably expect around 30 fantasy points. And no Zach LaVine helps as well. So Shaq Harrison, don't mind him at all. Derek White. So there's not going to be any Murray. There's not going to be Aldridge. So these guys, all these guards for the Spurs are going to get some extended run here without Murray on the court. Not like Murray played 40 minutes a game or anything, but he played anywhere from 25 to around 30 minutes per game. So that just opens up some extra usage, some extra minutes on the court. Derek White, I expect him to start at point guard here in 4,600. Spot versus Dallas isn't great. They're actually pretty good defensively versus guards, but it's all about the guys being out. It's all about the extra minutes, and he's been playing closer to 30 minutes. I believe he's around anywhere from like 25 to 26 minutes. Let me just double check that. Yeah, last 2 games he's played 27 minutes and 25 minutes. He's also been playing pretty well too. He had a 32-point fantasy game mixed in there. And if you look at his numbers on the season, he's at 0.92 points per minute, 18% usage rate. So I don't think it's a bad play. Don't love the matchup versus Dallas. Don't like the pace of play of this game as much either. But if he's going to draw a start, get around 30 minutes, I don't mind it. Matthew Dellavedova, who is pretty much the best player in basketball right now. Not really, but he's been just crushing value right now in DFS. If you've played him the past 2 games, he has helped you win quite a bit of money because he's been on fire. Now, I know he's been chalky, but he's been playing pretty well. He's racking up the assists. I believe he had 14 assists and 11 assists the past 2 games, which is amazing. And that's the thing. He doesn't need to score points to be a good play because he's a distributor, and he lets Colin Sexton do all the scoring. Both Dellavedova just kind of steps back and gets the assist. Throw in the occasional 3-pointer or just some points made. I don't even expect double-digit points to be scored, but if he's going to grab a couple rebounds, get double-digit assists, and throw anywhere from like 6 to 12 points mixed in there, if the upside of more, we'll take it out of Delly. He's only 4K. Price really hasn't caught up as much. Now, the matchup versus Chicago is not a pretty one. They're really good versus guards. just kind of because of how bad they are versus big men. Teams just tend to attack them down low. They rank first versus point guards, third versus shooting guards, but I think Delly can rack up the assist here. I think he can just get it down low to Andre Drummond, and he'd probably make his money off of just passing down to Andre Drummond or Kevin Love for a 3-pointer or something like that, and just rack up the assists. And he's probably going to walk into close to 10 real life points. So Delly, I think he's a pretty strong play at 4K, even though his price has rose a little bit, but not enough, I don't think. Bryn Forbes, 3,500. Another guy who's just going to see some extended minutes with Murray being out. And he's only 3,500, and he saw 32 minutes last game. 32 minutes, and he's only 3,500. Matchup versus Dallas isn't great, but again, it's all about guys being out. It's all about the minutes here. So Bryn Forbes certainly on my radar. If you look at his numbers on the season, not pretty. 0.72 points per minute. I also forgot to mention that about Delly. He sucks points per minute wise, only 0.68 points per minute, but he's been playing out of his mind the past 2 games. So I'm giving him a pass. But yeah, Bryn Forbes, 0.72 points per minute. But if he's going to play around 30 minutes again, I think he can get us over 20 fantasy points, which we'll take at 3,500 pretty much every single day. So Bryn Forbes on my radar for sure. Rajon Rondo, only if LeBron misses this game. If LeBron plays, forget Rondo is on this sheet. But if LeBron's out, you certainly got to look Rondo's way. He's well over a point per minute with LeBron missing. He's about 1.08 points per minute with around a 20% usage rate. And we'd have to imagine he gets around 22, 25 minutes if LeBron's out, which if he can get us 25 points out of 3,300, we'll take it. It's a good matchup versus Brooklyn. They suck versus point guards. They're ranked 25th versus the position. So Rajon Rondo certainly on my radar if if LeBron James happens to miss this game. Then last but not least, we have Patty Mills at 3,100. Again, this is all about Murray being out. All these 3 guards for the San Antonio Spurs are going to see some extended run. And Patty Mills, he's almost the absolute minimum. Now, he only played about 19 minutes in the last game, but if he can get us anywhere from around 20-ish minutes, 3,100, we'll take it. Now, his numbers aren't great on the season. 0.83 points per minute, but it's not too bad. And if you take Aldridge off the court, he actually surprisingly gets quite a big boost. He's around over 0.9 points per minute. Then if you take Murray off, obviously those numbers go up even more. So Patty Mills at 3,100. It's going to be pretty hard for him to not hit value here. So Patty Mills certainly on my radar. And that's pretty much going to be it for this player pool breakdown. But before we get out of here, do want to talk about the sponsor, OverlayDFS.com. Alright guys, if you're new to the channel, this is OverlayDFS.com. I really love playing over here. It's a nice breath of fresh air compared to DraftKings. Don't get me wrong, I like DraftKings, but it can be a real grind. Building lineups, salary cap restrictions, building projections, all that stuff, you know what I mean. But over here at Overlay DFS, it's just a pick-em based website. It's pretty fun, it's something you can do with your friends. OverlayDFS.com. So this is an example from last night's slate. It's a screenshot. So they pretty much give you a column of about 20 players, and you pick your 12 favorite matchups. So, for example, last night we had Pascal Siakam versus Kyle Lowry. If you thought Siakam was going to outscore Lowry, you picked Siakam. If you thought Middleton was going to outscore Mitchell, you picked Chris Middleton. I don't even want to bring up Chris Middleton's name because I'm sure a lot of you hate him right now. But hey, that's on the coach, not him. But then we have Jamal Murray versus Norman Powell. If you thought Murray was going to score Powell, you picked Murray, guys. It's as simple as that. And if you finish in the top 10% of the contest, you win 9 extra money. And that's probably one of the best things I think they have at Overlay DFS is their payout structure. I mean, finishing in the top 10%, you win 9 extra money. That's pretty amazing. On DraftKings, that 9 extra money, you pretty much got to win the whole thing. And sometimes even if you do win the whole contest, you don't even 9 extra money still. And especially in some of the single entries I play, you don't even 9 extra money. So love the payout structure over there. They also have some cool little challenges where if you go 12-0 in your picks, you can win the progressive jackpot, which is at 104 days of now of not being hit. It's over $17,000. Over $17,000. I mean, someone's got to hit it, so why not you? I'm hoping it's me. That'd be really nice. But if it's not me, I hope it's one of you guys that's watching this video. And to be able to win $17,000 off of a $22 entry is pretty amazing to me. So I took this screenshot when there was probably about an hour before lock, and there was only 144 people in there. So it's not like you're competing against thousands and thousands and thousands of people to win this $17,000. If you go 12 on your picks, you're only competing really against 150 people, other people. So, I mean, that's what I really like about Overlay. I mean, contests aren't overly big. We need to get more people playing over there. I think it's a really good website. I think it's like a hidden gem. I know a lot of people aren't talking about it, but I mean, I love pretty much everything about the site. Nothing I can really complain about. They got good people over there. They pay you out quick. And also they have some other challenges where if you're having the worst day of your life, if you go 0-12 in your picks, which is pretty impressive, if you go 0-12 in your picks, they'll give you $500. And they also have a slump buster challenge where if you lose every single day for 20 days in a row, not like consecutive days, but say you play once a week for 20 weeks in a row and you lose every single time, they'll refund every single dollar you deposited, guys. So just check it out, overlaydfs.com. No promo code required. Just go over there, sign up, and have fun. But that's going to be it for this video, guys. I hope it was helpful. If it was, remember to leave a like. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out. Really appreciate it. Follow me over on Twitter. I'm at Pennell16. And I'll see you guys in the next video. And sign up on Patreon if you want. And follow me on Twitter.